Yes, my name is Blake Hudworth. I do work with the Roberts Family Development Center. I'd love to tell you all a little bit about myself before we get started and I start sharing my screen. And then I'll also just ask a question while I'm doing that. I love to know kind of where people are from that are in the space. So if you want to tell me your major and then what like town you grew up in, that for many of you that may be Sacramento, but if it's somewhere else, I'd love to see that as well. Feel free to drop in the chat again your major in school and then the town that you grew up in. I'll also share those things with you. So I'm Blake Cudworth. I'm from Redwood City, California originally, which is in the Bay Area. And I was a sociology major at Sac State, got my BA in that, and then also a philosophy minor. I've been working with Roberts Family Development Center for 5 years now. And I have been in a lot of different spaces in my time with Roberts Family Development Center. But currently I'm our tutoring and mentoring coordinator. I'm going to be sharing about a number of different opportunities that we typically have available within the organization, which do include tutoring and mentoring the programs that I oversee, as well as some of our other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing screen now. Just a couple of other things to keep in mind as well. My internet has been a little bit shaky today, so if I cut out, I've asked our folks here to let me know so that I can go back to whatever you may have missed. And if it keeps being an issue as the call goes on, I will just turn off my video to hopefully have that work. But I should be sharing my screen now. I'll start presenting our slides. And yeah, I was going to see if anyone put theirs in the chat here as well. Early childhood education from Sacramento. Awesome. Thank you, Ariel. Gerontology from LA. Okay, nice. Feel free to throw those in as well as I'm going here. I will start our presentation though. You're here today to learn about different internship opportunities. We have volunteer and paid positions that we're always trying to get young people, especially college students, involved in. And so with Roberts Family Development Center, one of our mottos is that together we struggle, together we thrive. We're a community-based organization, and so we have to work together for anything that we're, hoping to accomplish in our community. So a little bit about Roberts Family Development Center. We used to have a video on this slide. It's kind of long, and I didn't want to spend too much time having y'all watch through a video, especially with a little bit of spotty connection here. So just a couple things about us, right? Our mission is to provide services to the greater Sacramento area that meet the individual needs of each family member. We are Roberts Family Development Center for a reason. It's about our whole families. So our services provide a holistic approach focusing on pre-K all the way up to 12th grade academic support and enrichment, parent education and engagement, and then community involvement and advocacy. So really it's like it says, holistic. We work with students on their, many things that come up academically, social, emotionally, just kind of the things that happen in life as a child. But then we also want to make sure that their families are taken care of. Older siblings who are young adults may be able to provide or be helped by a lot of the services we have as well. But anything that really impacts the families in Sacramento is something that we want to be able to positively be involved in. Our founders are Daryl and Tina Roberts. They are CEO and COO. They founded Roberts Family Development Center in 2001. So this is our 25th year. It's very exciting to be at this milestone year. There are some kind of things going on with our center to celebrate that throughout 2026. There's been a lot of growth in those years. We had about 13 scholars in our first program that Roberts Family Development Center held. And now we serve about 700 each day through our after school programs, a similar number of children throughout the summer with our summer programs, which I'll talk about in a minute. Just we're constantly looking to expand. That 700 is a ton of kids to be around day to day, but it's a fraction of the students and children that are in the Sacramento area. So there's always room to support more children. There's always folks that need that support or just could benefit from it. And so we're always looking to grow. And then focuses of Roberts Family Development Center. I can only put so many on here, but a few of them are our after school programs, summer services through a program called Freedom Schools, which again, I'll talk about some of these more as we go on. Just overall youth development, right? Creating future leaders, social services, counseling, different things that families might need, civic engagement and development. We are in the state capital, so there's often opportunities for things like that. And then tutoring and mentoring, which are, again, the programs that I typically oversee on a day-to-day basis here with Roberts Family Development Center. I think it got mentioned a minute ago, but as I go through the presentation, I'm happy to address any questions that may come up. But I will also spend some time at the end to allow for kind of Q&A of any questions that you do end up having. But if one comes up during the presentation, feel free to just throw it in the chat and I'll try to address it as quickly as I can. So school sites, like I said, we serve about 700 students throughout each day. That's across 7 different sites. The first one is here where I am currently joining this call from, our main office, which is not actually on a school campus itself, but does serve as an after-school program, as well as our offices, places where people come in for interviews, resources, all sorts of different things. We're also at Martin Luther King Junior Technology Academy, which is a middle school. Pioneer Elementary School, which is another K through 8 actually, and Grant Union High School are our 3 Twin Rivers. So I went a little bit out of order there because 2, 4, and 5 are Twin Rivers District schools. We have 2 schools in the Robles School District, Taylor Street and Glenwood Elementary. And then we have 1 school in the Natomas School District, which is H. Allen Height Elementary. A lot of different, spaces to be in. It's only, again, some of the Sacramento community, but most of our work is in the North Sacramento area, across those 6 school campuses, and then our main center, which serves an additional 12 schools just in this one center. So the first opportunity that I want to tell you all about is something called Freedom Schools. And Freedom Schools is a national program that is partnered with the Children's Defense Fund. An honor and distinction that Roberts Family Development Center has with Freedom Schools is that we actually are the largest provider across the country of Freedom Schools, and we have been for about a decade now. We usually serve anywhere from 500 to 900 kids each summer with the Freedom Schools program, out of the couple tens of thousands that are across the country doing these programs. It is a 6-week summer literacy program, so reading focus, trying to cut down on summer learning loss, and things of those sorts. It really allows us to pour into staff that come into this space. If professional development is something that you're seeking, if you're looking to be in a classroom in the future, you want to get some help with, things like lesson planning, doing, behavioral work with the students, working with kids with IEPs or 504 plans, creating, your own curriculum around interests that you may have. So much of that happens throughout the Freedom School summer. It is a whirlwind. It goes by quickly. It is a 6-week program, but it's, there's so much that can be learned in that time. And so with each of these, it's going to be hard to go into all that they are, especially Freedom Schools, because it's so complex. But again, if questions come up about more of the specifics of what Freedom Schools is, do let me know. It will be the main full-time position that I'm referring to within this presentation. Although it is a limited time, about 6 weeks, we do have trainings leading up to it, and then full-time 40 hours a week for those 6 weeks over the summer, maybe a little bit more friendly to folks' college schedules to be involved in that. We also have the African American Healing Network. This is one of our branches that is part of kind of like the family support services that Freedom Schools, that Roberts Family Development Center provides. So, it is really designed to address, the effects of trauma in the African American community. A large number of the families that we serve, a large number of our staff as well, are African American, and of the people in the Del Paso community in general. We are constantly looking to pour into the physical, mental, spiritual health of the people that we serve. And so African American Healing Network is a place where we can do that, through trauma-informed care, different wraparound services, mental health options, things like that. Really, we provide a system to families, where they can be reached, through us. There can be that form of connection between staff, families, other families as well. And then, policy is also part of this. Like I said, we're in the state capital. And so the, the policies that are being, held across California are often being written just down the street from us. And so there is definitely an advocacy side of trying to address, things that are happening within our greater systems that may be, indirectly affecting certain groups more than others. And so especially with the current administration, we've seen that that is something that has impacted some of the families we serve. And so we're trying to constantly address that. So that's a little bit about African American Healing Network. I will also at the end mention the specifics in terms of hours for each of these programs. I don't think I mentioned that part. I did say it with the Freedom Schools, but I'm not going to address that just yet with African American Healing Network. Moving on to the Black Child Legacy Campaign. It is a program as well within our family support services. We have a little bit more information on them here. So, one of the main purposes with that is that the child death rate of African Americans in Sacramento is significantly larger than their white and Asian counterparts specifically, and a bit higher as well than the Hispanic population. And so decreasing disparities in that area can really lead to, more Black children growing up healthy and having fulfilling lives, right? And so with that, they use a network of wraparound supports for families to really lead to, healthy and happy individuals. And so, a couple of things that are involved in that are perinatal conditions, right? So before the child's even born, access for the parent, for the mother to, proper healthcare checkups, things that are needed to really make sure that that baby is healthy when they do come. Infant sleep is also part of this, right? So when a child, has sudden infant death syndrome, or there's some environmental factors in the household or, around the community that are, leading to, just different challenges with the child. Child abuse and neglect as well is something that, just having consistent services for our families really helps with, trying to make sure that these families are able to provide all of the support that they can for their children. And then third-party homicides. Unfortunately, Sacramento does have, a, a few homicides each year, more than a few, where, if we can cut that down as well, more, happy, flourishing members of our communities will, be present. With those family support service programs, both of the ones that I just mentioned, I talked about education with Freedom Schools. If you're looking more to get into social work, if you're looking to be in community advocacy, if you're going to be getting into the healthcare system, anything like that, then those programs really can be a great place to kind of step into that and build your own leadership in, community outreach, wellness, things of those sorts. I do feel like I've kind of been talking for a minute here, so I do want to give us a quick pause to see if there are any things that have come up about Freedom Schools, Black Child Legacy Campaign, or African American Healing Network in terms of questions or thoughts before I do move on. So I'm happy to have those either be in the chat or via, unmuting your mic if anyone's comfortable, if you do have any questions. I'm happy to move on as well, but I want to give you that chance.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, Blake. Just to let you know.
Yep, I don't see anything yet as well. So I will keep it going in that case. Next program that I do want to shout out is the Food for Thought mentoring program. This is one that often works well during the school year for a college student to work around their college class schedule. And so the purpose of our Food for Thought mentoring program is to match mentors, which would be you all, with selected mentees to provide, consistent attention to the child, improving their educational experience, and being a positive role model. Near peer mentorship is a very crucial thing for young people who, maybe regardless of their academics, just need an adult or a person who's looking out for them in their life. And being, young adults, you'll be able to connect with them a little bit better than, a little bit older folks like sometimes their teachers are, or, the admin on campus. And even if some of y'all are students that are a little bit older than, the 18 to 25 typical range, that doesn't mean this wouldn't be great for you. I do want to clarify that. But I do find that near peer mentorship is really a great, resource for our kids. Those meetups that we have with them usually would happen either at their lunchtime, or if it's harder to find a way to do it during lunchtime, before or after school on campus, we sometimes also will have our mentorship sessions. The goal is always to provide a school year worth of mentorship to that student or more. And I know we're late in the school year now, so this is something that can, move into the summer. It can, go into, the following school year so that you can get to that full year of service for that kid. And if it's something that you can be involved in, beyond that, that's also amazing. This is something we do both volunteer and paid, depending on what works for you. And it's really just a chance to build a caring relationship with this person, be able to check in with them regularly. If they're chronically absent from school, figuring out how to get them to campus more often. If they're there but they're not super engaged, right? Just kind of figuring out what those barriers are, any challenges that might be going on that you can help with. And usually it's also a chance to just have a good meal with them, bring them some food, find out the things that they're interested in, and just improve their confidence, right? A lot of kids they don't know that they can do the things that they can do until someone tells them, you're capable of quite a bit. And so I will say again, for the average college student that may be in this space, mentoring is something that is always needed for us and for other organizations in the Sacramento community. So I definitely would recommend, you know, taking a look at that if it may be something that would work for you. Before I move to the next slide, I did see a question about freedom schools. Um, with the hours, I am going to address the hours of each program towards the end. Um, and then, yeah, let me talk a little bit more about your question, Abigail, when we get a little bit further here. But thank you for putting that in the chat. It's a great question. So that was our mentoring position. Academic tutoring is kind of, the mentoring is the social emotional side of things. The tutoring is more the academic side of things for our students. And so the purpose of tutoring with Roberts Family Development Center is to, meet the needs that scholars have, often for individualized instruction. The school day, usually kids are in classes of somewhere around 30 children to one teacher. Maybe there's an aide in the classroom, maybe there's not. But it really doesn't work towards the actual individual learning styles that children and just don't get a lot of actual one-on-one assistance. That's why I work in week. Oh, I saw my connection went unstable there, so I'll just repeat the last, sentence or two. We meet 3 to 4 scholars at a time, 2 to 4 times a week with our children, focusing on core subjects like math and English. There's a lot of different subjects that come up throughout the school day for children. If they're on grade level in math and in English, it really increases their chances of, passing their courses overall, because those subjects are so crucial. And so most of the time we spend in tutoring focuses on those subjects. Similar with freedom schools, if getting into lesson planning is something that you're interested in, learning how to be in a classroom, focus on academics with kids, tailor your work to the individual needs of each child. Tutoring is a great position as well. It usually is a little bit more of a time commitment throughout the week than mentoring. Again, I'll get to the hours in a moment here. But really just helps you and the child work on your problem solving, your critical thinking. Their confidence usually is much higher when they leave a program like tutoring than when they come in. And oftentimes, when you talk to parents about what their child needs, first thing they'll say is tutoring. And so it's really awesome to be able to provide that to the families that we serve. This is something that happens at most of the campuses that we have throughout our organization as well. I did see one more thing. Okay, that was just a response in the
Yep.
chat. Perfect. So, those are the main programs that we do have. I do want to jump into the hours by the opportunity and then just a little bit deeper breakdown on kind of what each of those then means. So I'll start with Freedom Schools. It is a 6 week full-time paid opportunity. So to the question of kind of, how that works, if it's paid, if it's not paid, timeline of it, it starts mid-June and it goes until late July. That's the actual 6 weeks that are, full time. But we also have paid trainings leading up to the summer for Freedom Schools. It is very different from other summer programs that most folks have either been a part of or been around in the past. And so there's a lot of training that goes into making sure that you're prepared to get in front of the students and be with them for 8 hours a day. It's working in that 10-to-1 ratio, each day with the kids. Just a little bit more about kind of the structure of that day as well, is that we start our day with something called Harambe as well as our breakfast. And Harambe is like a chance for us to do sort of like a morning pep rally with our kids. There's songs, there's music, there's dance. It's kind of a temperature check to see how they're doing for the day. Our reading component then comes after that and takes up most of our morning. We read culturally relevant books that have characters that the students that we serve, regardless of their background, hopefully can identify with, and really explore different themes about self, about family, about community, about the world overall. And so we, do books and then we do kind of activities to address the central themes of those books each morning. Of course, we're with the kids a long time each day throughout the summer. So then we go into lunchtime. And then the afternoons are really a chance for the individual, staff members, which would be yourselves, to get to actually, share your own interests. So, with Freedom Schools in the summer, those afternoons are a chance to, if I'm into fashion, right, I can run a fashion design program with the kids, and teach them all about, working with textiles, creating your own designs, maybe doing a fashion show at the end of the program, right? If you're really into sports, you can have, a specific sport that you teach them all the fundamentals of and do scrimmage games and practices and trainings with. If, you're really into art, you might be able to do a basic pottery class with the kids. You might be able to do watercolors with them. There's just, anything that you're into, the kids are going to be into because they're going to see your passion for it. And so we really provide for our staff, supplies to be able to lead this activity that really flourishes throughout the summer. And then we do field trips with the kids every week because, it's the summer. We want them to have fun. We're going to go to college campuses. We're going to go to things like the pool or the state fair, or the movies, just fun things for the kids to get to explore more of the community. Many of them haven't really been out of their small little neighborhood within Sacramento. And so this is a chance to get to see what's all around them as well. So I hope that kind of addresses the questions we had about Freedom Schools. If other ones do come up, please do let me know. But again, it is full time. It is paid. In terms of the hourly wage, it's usually somewhere 21 to 24, $25 an hour throughout the summer. Again, those trainings as well are fully paid. One other thing I didn't mention with Freedom Schools is that there's a mandatory trip to Tennessee, which is a great opportunity to, be able to explore something new for yourself as well. Our staff go out to Tennessee for about 5 days, starting on June 2nd, I believe, this year. And you get to learn all about Freedom Schools from our national, leaders for the Freedom Schools program. You're also paid for that whole trip, as well as your hotel is, covered. Your meals, for the most part, are covered as well. And you just get to really like explore like what Freedom Schools and what being an educator, in a different space than a typical classroom can look like. Um, so that is the Freedom Schools program. Hopefully that all made sense. Going into the family support services that we have, the African American Healing Network and the Black Child Legacy Campaign that I brought up earlier, those ones tend to have less specific opportunities available, at random points throughout the year, like we are here in late March. So that's one where it'd be, you'd want to come in and talk to our folks more about specifically what you're looking to get into and how you can be involved with them. I'm not as clearly able to say, here's exactly when you might start. Here's how many hours a week you might get with them. But there may be some part-time opportunities if, again, kind of that advocacy, being involved with families, being on the mental health side of things, doing, trauma-informed care with families. If things like that are what you're looking to get into, then please do be, able to reach out to us individually more about what that looks like. I did see a question about freedom schools pop up. Will the freedom schools be accessible within my school schedule? I somewhat think I know what you're meaning there, but I'm not sure I fully understand the question. If you're talking about like taking summer courses, it can be a challenge to take summer courses and be involved in freedom schools at the same time. It is a full-time commitment, and then on top of just the 40 hours a week you're on campus, there's sometimes, lesson planning and preparation that happen outside of that time. So typically it's difficult to take courses at the same time. We usually advise against that. Um, would we work with you on your schedule? We can work with you on your schedule for the most part. But the Tennessee trip is mandatory, right? So that again, I said that starts, I think, June 2nd. It's a 5-day trip. If you can't do that trip, you can't do the program. And so that's, just an unfortunate part of, we want to really make sure that you're able to be a part of that. So you got to kind of square it away with your schedule to be able to go to Tennessee for those 5 days. And then once the program starts in mid-June, from then until when the program ends in late July, we really want you to be on campus every day that we have program as much as possible. But in terms of kind of if the trainings work, have some overlaps with your schedule, the ones that are happening between now and June, we can try to work with you on that. Some people may be graduating in mid-May. We might have a training around when you're graduating. We obviously will work with you on that. We don't want you to miss your, ceremony. But yes, we can be somewhat flexible with it, but there are certain dates that are, definitely mandatory. And so that's something that as you applied for the program, we could let you know kind of, if the, potential barriers will be a challenge or if there's something that we can work with you on. I'm hoping that addresses that question. But again, feel free to add more, as well as any of our other folks here in the call. If any come up for you, I'm happy to address those as well. The mentoring program I mentioned, it can be paid or it can be volunteer. We have both, just depending on your availability, what campus we might have you work with. It's up to 10 hours a week, but it can be as few as, maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. And so that can be, again, if it's just something that you're looking to get involved in the community, you're looking to work with youth, but you don't have a lot of time to spare right now during the semester, then that mentoring can be a great way to be involved, right? And again, it can run through the school year into the summer. The challenges of life don't end when the school year ends, obviously. And so for our students, we want to be able to be involved with them, beyond just the calendar week that we're on campuses. And so if that is something you're looking to get into, love to have you join into mentoring, for those limited hours, again, anywhere between 2 and 10 hours a week, paid or unpaid, similar hourly rate to what I mentioned for Freedom Schools. And then with tutoring, this is tied to the school schedule, so it happens in the after school space with the programs that we service. And typically, sometime between 2 and 6 p.m. would be the tutoring. It goes up to about 15 hours a week. Usually kind of the baseline is like 7 to 8 hours a week, up to that higher end. And that really just depends on you and your availability. We have tutors that can really only do 2 days a week. Maybe that's Tuesday, Thursday, maybe that's Monday, Wednesday. And so they do maybe 3 to 4 hours each of those days. But we also have people who, all their classes are in the morning. They're able to work with us the full afternoon. We can get them up to more like that 15 hours a week. You do lesson planning with tutoring. You work with your 3 to 4 kids at a time. Typically, we focus each day on a particular subject. So let's say you have math Mondays, you do English language arts on Tuesdays. If you're doing all 4 days, great. You could do math 2 days a week, English 2 days a week. And we do, monthly exams for the kids to evaluate where they're at. Really, the goal is to actually phase every child that does our tutoring program out of the program because they've gotten either caught up or beyond grade level in, the subjects that we're working with them on. But it is something that typically goes throughout the school year. The kids at this point in the year, if you were to get a group of students, they may be in your program from now until the end of the school year. But maybe they start making leaps and bounds, and some new kids who need support get brought into the space as well. But again, tutoring really just a chance for any potential future teachers. This is a great opportunity to get involved on different school campuses, learning how to lesson plan, learning how to do behavior management, just actually really being in it with the kids, finding out, how you communicate well, finding out how they learn and tailoring what you're doing to the individual child. All of that is absolutely, part of it. Um, to the question of would you be going to several different schools? Depends on the program. So for freedom schools, it's going to be potentially different campuses than the ones that I mentioned when I showed all of our campuses earlier in the presentation. But it's the same districts. So we have 3 to 4 districts that we work with over the summer. And when you get placed on a site, you're at that site for the full summer. So if we put you on our Twin River site, you're going to be on that Twin River site with the same group of 10 kids all summer. If we put you on a Natoma site, same thing. You're at the Natoma site each day for the full summer with that same group of 10 kids. I didn't also mention, but with most of these programs, really, depending on what age group you're comfortable working with, we can make sure that you have the opportunity to kind of, either get more comfortable with that age group, kind of push your comfort zone, work with a group you haven't necessarily worked with before. Freedom schools, we do levels. So you'd be with kinder through second if you're with our level ones. You'd be with third through fifth grade if you're with our level twos. You'd be with sixth through eighth grade if you're with our level threes, or our level fours are our high schoolers. So we work all the way up through 12th grade for that Freedom Schools program. But you'd get that range of about 3 grades that would be in your classroom for that, all on one campus, right? For mentoring, that maybe bounce around to different campuses, right? So if you're thinking, I really want to mentor, I'm a gentleman. I'm looking to mentor middle school boys. We have 2 campuses that have middle school boys on them. We might have you go back and forth between those two. If you're a lady and you're like, I really want to work with our high school girls, we only have one campus with high schoolers. Maybe you'd be working with them, right? If you're kind of comfortable across multiple age ranges, maybe we have you go to one of our elementary schools, one of our middle schools, just depending on the students that we end up partnering you with. Part of that as well with the mentoring process is that we want to make sure that the families are comfortable with the person who's going to be mentoring their child, right? So usually we kind of do a kind of survey with you to figure out what you're looking for in a mentee, what your availability looks like, and then we go and we interface with our campus and we say, hey, we have someone that might be looking to work with, fourth to seventh grade. Do you have any students that age range who, might need that support, who fit this, and this criteria? Then you get a chance to meet with that family, usually with like the primary guardian and the staff member that works with them day to day, and see if it's going to be a fit. And then once we've, matched you up, it says up to 10 hours a week because we may match you up with, something like 4 or 5 different mentors if you're available to work with that many different mentees. And so, if that works out, it may be multiple campuses. It may just be one. It just really depends on which, group of kids you end up being placed with for that. And then tutoring, typically we try to keep you with one school campus. But we have had people who've gone to 2. We try not to ever go beyond 2 with that, just because we really want you to get to know the kids well and be able to lead your sessions and see that development amongst those group of kids. So usually you'd have 1 to 2 groups of kids, most of the time one campus. Occasionally we expand into a second campus. And so yeah, like I said, it depends on the program, but that kind of sums up, I think, for the most part, whether you'd be on one campus or multiple for each of those different programs. The African American Healing Network and Black Child Legacy Campaign, usually their work is very just case by case dependent. It may be primarily being at our office here, not actually on a campus. If you're doing more like the community outreach, you may be frequently going to events throughout the Sacramento area. You may be, leading sessions here at our office, and then you may occasionally be on school campuses as well. So that really just depends on the space. I hope that does address most of that question there. Um, If there are any others that have come up throughout, I'm happy to address them. I kind of shared most of what I wanted to tell you all so far. But really this is just opportunities, for you. And so, if there's things that haven't been addressed, that's really, it's your time to decide if this is going to be right for you. I will also shout out, I'm going to go to our next slide, but I can go back at any time here. Just, again, my name, I'm Blake Hudworth. I have my email at the bottom here. If things come up after this session that, didn't get addressed, but, you thought about, oh, shoot, I wish I asked this. It's great to reach out to me there. If any of these potential opportunities that I've brought up would be of interest to you, emailing and just saying, like, I came from the Los Rios, session, that, via handshake. I would be happy to, figure out if any of those sessions will work for you, any of those programs will work for you. We also have our phone line there. That is our general line for the office. So sometimes I'm the one answering it, but there's about, five of us that typically, answer the phones here, depending on who's, busy doing what. But usually all of those people are, qualified to answer questions that may come up for you, across our different programs. And so you'll always call us as well. I am our tutoring and mentoring coordinator. And so that's my, area of expertise, but we also have folks who work with all of our different programs, that can address problems that or questions that may come up. I did also want to bring up our website there, robertsfdc.org. If you just take like my name off of that email, that is also a great place to find more information about the many things that we do. Although I did share a lot with you all about a few different programs right now, that's kind of like just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the many, many things that Roberts Family Development Center is involved in throughout the Sacramento region. And so if you're looking to kind of find out more about us, you can check out that website. As well as our Instagram. There's often, a picture can tell, it's worth a thousand words, right? Is the expression. There's a lot of great pictures with our kids, at RFDC Kids. And so I can put both that website and that, Instagram in the chat. I'll type those in now. But ultimately, there are just so many different things that we do. Again, I only got to address some of them now. So, that is all the information I have now. If there aren't any more questions, I'll put it back to our opportunities slide here, right? Freedom Schools, the social services with African American Network and BCLC, mentoring, and then tutoring. Again, summer, school year, any of those different things. If you are looking to get involved with a community-based organization with a heart for service of the community, I think RFTC is a great place to get involved. I did see a couple of new questions came in the chat. Thank you for those. If you're interested in a position, we can email you, or is there a link? You can email me directly. You can also email, we have a specific jobs email. And I'm putting that in the chat right now as well. It's just jobs@robertsfdc.org. Um, I would recommend CCing me if you're going to email the jobs one specifically, just because I was here in this session with you. And so, I would love to be able to see it, especially if you're looking to get involved in mentoring and tutoring. I'm the one scheduling the interviews, and trainings and stuff for folks that are involved in those. So it's helpful for me to see that. For Freedom Schools, if that's something you're looking to get involved in, do send an email to us sooner than later to that jobs@robertsfdc.org. That would be really helpful because, our first training is only a couple weeks away. It's about 3 weeks away now. And so if that's something you're looking to get into, we want to get you, to our orientation and our, interview sooner than later so that you can, be involved with us this summer. For any of the positions I brought up, you would want to, when you're sending over, that email to us to apply, including your resume and your transcript is very helpful. It can be an unofficial, transcript, doesn't have to be the official one. I know that those are a little bit harder to get sometimes. And then, just whatever copy of a resume or, cover letter, CV, whatever you might have, you can attach those as well. So that's in terms of the application process. My email or that jobs@robertsfdc with your transcript and your resume. Helpful to put in the subject line which position you're interested in. So Freedom Schools, mentoring, tutoring. If it's multiple, you can put that as well. And then yes, college transcript. We do not want high school transcripts. Although, if you have that, that's great for you. Just for a lot of our programs, there is some level of college courses required. It's not usually specific, like, oh, you need early childhood education credits or anything like that. But for the different positions, sometimes you would need to take an additional test with us if you don't have a certain number of units. So that helps us just see where you're at with your college units, your college transcript. And then I saw a question about the Tennessee trip. So it is mandatory. You shouldn't really have to pay out of pocket for basically anything for that trip. So, we pay for your flight. There's a travel agreement that goes with that, right? That you will come on the trip. That you'll serve the summer with us because we are making that investment in you. But the flight is fully covered. There's a hotel that we stay in each year, that we cover your hotel. Just know we do pair staff up. So, usually it's two staff members share a room, separate beds, obviously, for the course of the trip. Breakfast is provided at the hotel each day. Lunch is provided at the trainings themselves each day. And then usually dinner is also provided at the trainings. Oftentimes, the one thing that staff are paying out of pocket for during the trip is that they just want to get dinner on their own after the training. And so that is something that you're always welcome to do. We stay right down the street from a number of different restaurants that are pretty good as well. There's things that we don't have out here in California, like Zaxby's. So there's a few that people like to go to in the area. That's the only thing you'd really need to pay out of pocket for is if you want to get meals on your own outside of what's provided. But the hotel's covered. The flights both ways are covered, and then you're also paid 40 hours for the time that you're out there as well. So it's a pretty sweet gig in that regard. I'm hoping that kind of addresses that. And I will just say, like, that trip is for a lot of people like that have done it in the past when I've gone on these trips, they've told me that it's just been like a life-changing experience for them. Because really, like, you're just, you're in a different state, you're around somewhere around 1,000 to 1,300 young people, many of color, many working in education programs, working with youth year round, who are coming to like really just try to build networks and support for kids all across the country. And so you get to learn about how people are doing that in Florida, how people are doing that in Minnesota, how they're doing it in Texas, in Tennessee, where the training is happening, right? All across the country, seeing the differences in how these programs work, but like the heart for service that people have all across the country. And you get to learn a lot of history while you're there, and just meet a lot of really, really cool people who have very unique perspectives on the world. So I can't stress enough that that trip is really an amazing thing, especially if you haven't really been out of the state much in the past. It will be something that really, is kind of transformational for you. Yeah, again, thank you for all of the questions so far. I just wanted to double check if we have any last questions before I kick it back to the ladies here for kind of our housekeeping at the end here.
Yeah, thanks for
And
that,
then, oh,
Blake.
thank you so much, Vivian. I'll just shout out what just got put in the chat there. Specifically, the tutoring position is on Handshake as well. I know you guys found this session through Handshake. The tutoring position, the link was just put in the chat there. That is still on Handshake, and has a little bit more information about that specific position. You can apply directly through Handshake, and I would reach out to you from there. The other ones all would be email, and the tutoring one you can also reach out via email. But since all of you, found us through Handshake, you can also find that position there and go directly there if you would like. But again, all of them can be reached through our email as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for that, Blake. And yeah, so again, if you are interested in applying, I did want to ask though, if they are interested in applying, Blake, do they need a resume for the mentoring, the Freedom School positions? Is that something that I know they certainly email that, but is that something they should have ready to go?
Yeah, so for Freedom Schools, you definitely would want to send in your resume and your transcript with whatever relevant experience you may feel that you have. on that. Freedom schools, because it's teaching an English curriculum, we do expect at least a little bit of college experience under your belt. Um, and so typically folks, we prefer for them to have at least finished their first year of college going into this program. And then usually we try to work with people on, like, you kind of have to wow us a little bit more if you don't have quite as many credits. But there is, the expectation that your resume and transcript both get sent in for that Freedom Schools one. For mentoring, the transcript would not be necessary, but we do still want to see your resume. And the interview process for that one does look a little bit different, just because what we're looking for in a mentor is a little bit different than what we're looking for in someone who's going to be doing more of the curriculum side of things. And then, yeah, tutoring, the transcript and the resume is helpful as well, because again, you'll be working with curriculum with the students. All of those, again, that's the college transcript. We do not need any high school transcripts.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that, Blake. And I know we're creeping up on the top of the hour, and I do want to give students the opportunity again to ask questions. Some of you may not be comfortable going off on camera while we're recording, so if we could go ahead and pause that. That would be great. But I did want to just promote the resources that are available to each of you if you are thinking about applying